Varadari Kopirana Bhava Grivadari Jaya Grivadari Soranandana Radha-dana Jaya Radha-dana Soranandana Radha-dana Jaya Radha-dana Yamunadiravarachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Yamunadiravarachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jayom Vishnupad Paramahansa Brahmadakacharya Asatara Sati Shri Sriman His Divine Grace Shalasi Bhaktivedanta Swami Raj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Gaur Premanande Haribo Glorious to these sound devotees, all glorious to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Vacharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paskatya Desatarane. Om Agana Timirandasya Kiranjana Salakaya Chaksurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaya Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shiguro Shiyuta Parakamalam Shigurum Vaishnavam Scha Shirupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Prajana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shiva Sakans Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karna Sindhu Dinabando Dagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Brindavaneshwari Prishubhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakapa Drubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Pranitananda Shadwaiti Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 12, Dhruva Maharaj goes back to Godhead, text number 42. Yak Pancha Varsho Guru Dara Vakshanara Binena Yato Hridayena Duryata Vanam Mad Adesha Karodita Prabhum Jigaya Tad Bhakta Ganai Prarajitam Yak Panchavarsho Guru Dara Vakshanara Pinena Yato Hridayena Duyata Vanambara Desha Karojitam Prabhum Jigaya Tad Bhakta Gunai Prarajitam
Vanam Mahadesha Karojitam Prabhum Jigaya Tad Bhakta Gunai Parajitam Jigaya Tad Bhakta Gunai Parajitam.
Ladies.
Panchavarsho Gurudara Vaksharai
Panchavarsho Gurudara Vaksharai
Binena Yato Hridayena Duryata.
Could you give me one of those pills that I gave you yesterday?
Vanam Manamad Adeshakaro Jitam Prabhum Jigayatat Bhakta Gunai Parajitam
Ya he who Panchavarsha at the age of 5 years Gurudara of the wife of his father Vaksharar by the harsh words Binena being very much aggrieved Yataha went Hridayena because his heart Dayata or Duyata very much pained Vanam to the forest Mat Adesha according to my instructions Kara acting Ajita unconquerable Prabhum the Supreme Personality of Godhead Jigaya he defeated Tat his Bhakta devotees Ganai with the qualities Parajitam conquered. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The great sage Narada continued, just see how Dhruva Maharaj, aggrieved at the harsh words of his stepmother, went to the forest at the age of only 5 years, and under my directions underwent austerity. Though the Supreme Personality of Godhead is unconquerable, Dhruva Maharaj defeated him with the specific qualifications possessed by the Lord's devotee. Please repeat. The great sage Narada continued. Just see how Dhruva Maharaj, aggrieved at the harsh words of his stepmother, went to the forest at the age of only 5 years, and under my direction underwent austerity. Although the Supreme Personality of Godhead is unconquerable, Dhruva Maharaj defeated him with the specific qualifications possessed by the Lord's devotees. Purport. The Supreme Godhead is unconquerable. Repeat the whole purport if you'd like. No one could conquer the Lord, but he voluntarily accepts subordination to the devotional qualities of his devotees. For example, Lord Krishna accepted subordination to the control of Mother Jasoda, because she was a great devotee. The Lord likes to be under the control of his devotees. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita it is said that everyone comes before the Lord and offers him exalted prayers. But the Lord does not feel as pleased when offered such prayers as he does when a devotee, out of pure love, chastises him as a subordinate. The Lord forgets his exalted position and willingly submits to his pure devotee. Dhruva Maharaj conquered the Supreme Lord because, at a very tender age, only 5 years old, he underwent all the austerities of devotional service. This devotional service was, of course, executed under the direction of a great sage, Narada. This is the first principle of devotional service, Adau Guru Vashrayam. In the beginning, one must accept a bona fide spiritual master, and if a devotee follows strictly the directions of the spiritual master, as Dhruva Maharaj followed the instructions of Narada Muni, then it is not difficult for him to achieve the favor of the Lord. The sum total of devotional qualities is development of unalloyed love for Krishna. This unalloyed love for Krishna can be achieved simply by hearing about Krishna. Lord Chaitanya accepted this principle that if one in any position submissively hears the transcendental message spoken by Krishna or about Krishna, then gradually he develops the quality of unalloyed love. And by that love only he can conquer the unconquerable. The Mayavadi philosophers aspired to become one with the Supreme Lord, but a devotee surpasses that position. Not only does a devotee become one in quality with the Supreme Lord, but he sometimes becomes the father, mother, or master of the Lord. Arjuna also, by his devotional service, made Lord Krishna his chariot driver. He ordered the Lord, "Put my chariot here," and the Lord executed his order. These are some examples of how a devotee can acquire the exalted position of conquering the unconquerable. So the verse again. Yak panchavarsho guru dara vaksharar binena yato hridayena duyata vanamad adesha karojitam prabhum trigaya tad bhakta ganai parajitam. The great sage Narada continued, just see how Dhruva Maharaj, aggrieved at the harsh words of his stepmother, went to the forest at the age of only 5 years, and under my direction underwent austerity. Although the Supreme Personality of Godhead is unconquerable, Dhruva Maharaj defeated him with the specific qualifications possessed by the Lord's devotees. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Tiramane Namaste Saraswatim Deve Gauravani Pracharne Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskadyade Siddharne. To defeat Krishna is not very easy. Well, first of all, anyone who's in every atom of the universe is very hard to defeat. What to speak of every atom of every universe and in between the atoms as well. Therefore, in the beginning of Krishna consciousness, we're supposed to try to understand who Krishna is and what our relation with Krishna is. And we should also try to understand, for instance, Srila Rupa Goswami explains, we should try to understand what our present position is to the best of our ability. Generally speaking, if you're at the beginning of a road, it's very hard to understand exactly what's on the end of it. But at least we can understand that if we take a few steps forward, and if there are signposts, then we can become a little bit encouraged that we've made some progress towards the goal. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was speaking to Ramananda Roy, and he asked Ramananda Roy, what is the goal of life and how we can achieve it? And if we read the Chaitanya Charitamrita, we can learn that there are many different verses that Ramananda Roy cited. Some of them are quite familiar to us, or should be familiar to us. The first one was Varnashrama Acharavitaha Purushena Pamak Puman Vishnu Radite Pandha. That by following Varna and Ashram. Now Varna and Ashram in one sense may seem a little bit more familiar to us, a little bit more practical. For instance, a Shudra. the qualities of Shudra is that they're submissive. So something most of us, we have to develop to become a bona fide Shudra. Of course, generally we made light of Shudras because, we're supposed to be Brahmins. The Vedic Brahmins were able to ignite, simply by mantras, a fire sacrifice. We seem to have a hard time sometimes igniting it with matches. To be a Brahmin is not so easy. But Shudras is supposed to be submissive, and we can see in this age, or Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has said that by birth everyone is born a Shudra, but by education one becomes less than an animal. So, to be a Shudra and submissive is not so easy. Being loyal, Shudras are supposed to be loyal. And a Vaishya has certain qualities. Krishi Gorakshavani Jam, Vaishya Karma Swabhava Jam. Paricharatmaka Karma Shudrasya Pi Swabhava Jam. The Vaishyas are supposed to protect the animals, especially the cows. And then when we get into the realm of Kshatriyas, Surya Tejas Titi Daksha Yude Chapipalayanam Dhanam Ishvara Bhavascha Shatram Karma Swabhavajam. Courageous, charitable, disorientated, powerful. Even in this age, there was one Kshatriya. He was quite big, and when he was in one battle, he took his sword and he cut the rider of a horse and the horse in half with his sword, with one stroke. Now when people saw half a horse, two halves of a horse, a rider was cut in half, they fled the battlefield. So that's called tejas, power. Nowadays, if someone is in a battle and they get cut by a knife, immediately they flee. And what to speak of Brahminical prowess, samadhamma tapasocham, shantir arjavam evacha, jnanam vijnanam astikyam, brahmakarma sabhavajam. Equanimity. How we have to ask, if I have my sacred thread, and I'm supposed to be a Brahmin, how equi-minded am I? Generally speaking, if we lose a pen, we become disturbed. Where is my pen? Did you take my pen? What to speak of other possible source of becoming disturbed, some dhamma, sense and mind control. Are we always completely fixed on exactly how much prasadam we should eat, calculating how big my stomach is, how much will fit in? Or sometimes our mind overtakes us and we eat one extra glubdom that we know we shouldn't be doing. And tapa, austerity, to get up early in the morning, to take a cold shower, etc., etc. Chant Hare Krishna and listen to every sound of the holy name. That's called austerity. In any case, these things are not so easy to achieve in Kali Yuga. And then Krishna goes over the Sarvadharma Parityajya and give up everything, surrender to Krishna, etc., etc. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says this is all external. Finally he says, Gyane priyasam udapastanamanteva stane jivanti sanmukaritam bhavadiya vartam stane stita shutikatam dhanavang manobira ye priyasa jitati taistri lokyam. So Jnanam priyasa, so priyasa means to set aside, set far aside, jnana, the tendency to speculate. Now, of course, we think we're not speculating most of the time because we're so much absorbed in speculation, we don't even know when we're speculating or we're not. As a matter of fact, everything we look at without knowledge is speculation. We're just, by the modes of nature we're situated under, we're conceiving what actually reality is. So that's all speculation. Unless we at least try to see with the eyes of knowledge, then everything we're seeing is a speculation. What to speak when we start chanting and we start noticing all the noise that's going on inside our mind, all the chatter. So that's another phase of speculation. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Jnane priyasam, set it aside, udamanta, and try to become submissive. Jnane priyasam udapasta, namanta eva. But who to become submissive? Jivanti sanmukharitam bhavadiya varatam, to the words spoken by the great devotees. So there's so much theoretical knowledge that's being presented to us. We're not this body, karma, reincarnation, the existence of God, etc. But we have to hear in such a way as to put it all into perspective. Understand what is actually being said, what's important, what's the priorities, what's the significance, what's the relationship. It's not a question of just hearing knowledge, it's a question of assimilating it. So it actually can be practically applied with determination. Not that I have all this knowledge, but I have no idea how to apply it, and therefore I never apply it. Or I don't even remember it, what it is, what to speak of applying it. At the end of the class, I'm lucky if I can remember which the verse they read. So without knowledge, there's no question of meditating on the knowledge, trying to put it in perspective, so that with determination and conviction, we can actually apply it within our lives. And if we're not trying to apply the knowledge in our lives, how do we expect to make any spiritual advancement? Is it that I brought my body, not necessarily my mind, to the class? Therefore, Krishna has a scoreboard, yes, 1 check, 2 checks, bingo! We have to put it into perspective and apply it within our lives, and then we might get some experience in Krishna consciousness, some higher taste. And since Krishna consciousness is simply the science of love, spiritual love for Krishna and his devotees, therefore we might get a little feeling. So if we're not feeling in love with Krishna, if we're not feeling in love with the devotees, it's because we don't even know, and if we don't even know that's what we're supposed to be feeling. This devotee stole my pen, I hate him, or I hate her. They're going to, yeah, I'm going to send him the story of Nriga, King Nriga. So if we don't even know that's what we're supposed to be feeling, we don't even have that amount of knowledge or perspective, then how are we going to put it into practice? And if we put it into practice and we think, well, now I feel love, I'm perfect, then we don't understand it's an eternal practice. We have to become more and more skillful, and then when one is completely skillful, then he develops a character of a pure devotee, as mentioned here, like Dhruva Maharaj. One has the character of a pure devotee like Shantira Virakta Kalitvam, Avyakta Kalitvam, Shantira Avyarta Kalitvam, Virakta Manasunyataha, Ashabandha Samudkanta, Nama Saragadas Ruchi. Shantira, always tolerant, Avyakta Kalitvam, not wasting any time, always being engaged in somehow or another in Krishna's service. Virakta, detachment, manashunyataha, always humble, without false prestige. Ashabandha samudkanta, always eager to be engaged in Krishna service and always aspiring to obtain Krishna, always anxious, expecting Krishna's mercy. Sadhanama gada ruchi, and always having a taste of the holy name. So this one who has that, it's because they have the character of a pure devotee. And that's just bhava, what to speak of prema. That's the preliminary state of love for Krishna. But if we expect to conquer Krishna without such love, we don't understand Krishna only exists with his associates on the platform of unalloyed love, intensified love. So why is Krishna going to surrender to us? What do we have to offer him? As Prabhupada once said, Krishna is not attracted by your fruity halava. It's not that we're offering Krishna the halava. It has some raisins in it, and Krishna loves raisins, so he has to accept it. Prabhupada, when he installed Rukmini Dwarkadish in L.A., he first was about to tell the story of Vangsi Babaji. How Vangsi Babaji used to take care of his deities in the mood of parental love. But then he changed the story at the end of the lecture, and he said, just like Sanatana Goswami, he was hanging Madan Mohan from a tree. Madan Mohan was one of the deities in the house of one Brahmin, but he used to behave just with the Brahmin's children, just like one of the sons of this Brahmin. But somehow or another, one day he came to live with Sanatana Goswami, and Sanatana Goswami was put him on a tree, on the branch of a tree. Generally speaking, this deity, Madan Mohan, he was used to nice prasad, nice house, everything was quite comfortable, and suddenly he was on the branch of a tree. And every day Sanatana Goswami went out and begged one roti. Roti didn't mean a nice clean chapati with butter on it and freshly cooked. A roti meant that because it was a village and people didn't have so much cooking ware or anything like that, they simply take some wheat and they just grind it, probably smash it on a rock or something, and then they make a dough out of it and throw it into a fire. Half it would be cooked, half it would be uncooked. So this is what Sanatana Goswami was receiving from his offering every day, from his begging, and he'd offer that to Madan Mohan. So Madan Mohan, after eating this for some time, this half-baked ball of wheat, became a little disturbed and said, "Dear Sanatana Goswami, every day you're offering me one dry chapati. Can't you put a little salt on it at least?" And Sanatana Goswami said, "Now salt, next you're going to be asking me for sweets." He said, "I'm an old man, I can't hardly even move. Whatever I get, I offer to you. Please accept it." So Prabhupada started to chuckle, he started to laugh. He said, yes, Madan Mohan had to eat that dry roti. And then Prabhupada said, but what is your value? And what is the value of the things that you have? He said, it is nothing, that the real thing is bhakti, that Krishna kindly take, I have no devotion, I'm rotten and I'm fallen, and then she'll probably start to cry, but I've offered this to you. Then he said, don't be puffed up. Always remember that you're dealing with Krishna. That is my advice to you. Thank you. So if we think we're great devotees, we're offering so much service, it's incredible that Krishna hasn't come and surrendered to us yet, but we're patient. Because we have to understand what the science of devotional service is. We don't even know Krishna, what to speak of loving Krishna. So we have to learn how to at least focus our attention on Krishna. But we can't focus our attention on Krishna unless stane stita, remaining in our position. Stane stita shrutikatam. We hear the Vedas. And what do the Vedas tell us? That Krishna is God. And what does that mean? It means that everything is owned by Him here. So how much do we really believe everything belongs to Krishna here? If we actually believe that, what is the symptom of someone who believes that everything belongs to Krishna? The prarishat priyam prapya, no dvijat prapyacha priyam, stira buddhira samudo brahmavid brahmani sitaha. Person is not elated when he obtains something pleasant, nor disturbed when he attains something unpleasant. So how many of us, if you're offered some nice gift, some nice prasadam, you say, no problem. And you're offered, someone takes something away from you, and they offer you terrible prasadam, no problem, it's all the same. Whether I lose or I gain, it's all the same to me. Prarisham priyam prapya, no dvijat prapya priyam. Self-intelligent, unbewildered, and who knows the science of God. So to know Krishna, to believe in Krishna, to accept Krishna as God, means that everything is His energy, and therefore I have nothing to gain here, I have nothing to lose. Even my own dear body doesn't belong to me, and therefore it's never mine, and therefore whether I have this body or I don't have the body, it makes no difference, because it doesn't belong to me, it belongs to Krishna. Let Krishna do with it what He wants. So we have to learn that philosophy, at least theoretically. We have to see it in different perspectives. We have to try to apply it in our lives. Before, and how to do that, we have to find out what Krishna wants us to do with His energy. If we just keep on hearing that Krishna is God, and we never render any service to God with His energy, then we remain a thief. It's like, I'm picking your pocket, I'm saying, I know it's yours, but thanks a lot. So if we don't render service with Krishna's energies, then we're remaining in the same material consciousness. And what's the symptom of material consciousness? Is that we think we're this body, and we believe that these things actually belong to me. And we think it's good. I need something. Because we don't know who we are. So we remain in this, Krishna allows us to remain in this dreamland of illusion. And if we find out what Krishna wants us to do, as it says here, we have to find out from Krishna's representatives. Now, the best representative is one who's actually in love with Krishna. But even if he told us, as Prabhupada says in these books, love Krishna, we wouldn't know what it meant. We'd think, oh, Krishna, I love you. But actually, that's not what it means for us, because we don't love Krishna in that way. What it means to us is we have to serve Krishna. If you love someone, you'll serve them. And if you want to love someone, then serve them. And if you want to serve them, then find out what they want you to do. And Krishna is not keeping his secret what He wants us to do. He wants us to always remember Him and never forget Him. And He wants us to help others always remember Krishna and never forget Him. He wants us to serve in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission. So in the beginning, there is a tendency to just do whatever we feel like doing for Krishna, but we have to advance to finding out what Krishna wants us to do. And even initiation doesn't mean, now I'm initiated, now I can do whatever I want. My guru will protect me. No, initiation means that we're connected with the disciple succession, and which means ultimately we're supposed to try to connect ourselves with the Super Soul. Whatever moment, every moment has a plan for us, what He wants us to do with His body, with His mind, with His words. That's right, words. Well, that's pretty good. That's called emphasis. What's that? You're picking up the microphone. Oh. Oh, I see. Okay, whatever. So, ultimately we're supposed to be trying to always remember what the instructions are coming from the disciple succession, how to serve Krishna. And the result is that if we're actually connected with our disciple succession, then our activities should be done to please Krishna without any other desire. And what will be the result? That we'll remember Krishna. First we'll remember his name, we'll be able to feel his presence. As we become more expert, we'll spontaneously remember his forms, his quality, his associates, his activities. So there's a goal and there's a purpose to what we're doing. We have to understand what the goal is, what the purpose is, and see if we're actually making some progress. If we're not only hearing knowledge, but we're actually remembering the knowledge, because without remembering it and assimilating it, trying to put it into perspective, we can't apply it with conviction. Unless we apply it with conviction, then how are we going to experience it? And unless we experience it, then how are we going to get any realization about it? Unless we get realization, how are we going to make it more skillful? And unless we make it more skillful, unless we actually come to the character like Jiva Maharaj of actually experiencing Krishna as he actually is, by always by becoming an instrument for Krishna's mission, then how are we going to conquer Krishna? So of course it may seem like a very difficult task, but material nature is much more difficult. Even if we're not so good at it, still we get prasadam, and we understand even basic things like reincarnation and the laws of karma. Without understanding those things, imagine how difficult the material world is now for people, and how more difficult it will be for them in the future. So though we may not be so expert even remembering this knowledge, or even hearing the knowledge, or putting it in perspective, or applying it with determination, or becoming skilled so that it becomes second nature to us, or developing the character so it becomes the only nature that we have. Still, even if we can't do that, and even if Krishna is not about to surrender to us, at least we're in the process of surrendering to Krishna. And someday will come that Krishna will actually surrender to us too. So, I'll stop there. Thank you. Any questions? Yes?
I would like to ask, how do we know if our understanding is theoretical, or we actually have a realization? For example, we can understand at the mind level theoretically that we are not this body. But how do we know if it's just like that we understand it like that, or if we actually have realization?
Well, if you don't know if you have realization or not, then you don't have any realization. But even theoretical knowledge has some degree of realization, because we only understand it theoretically with our intelligence. We may not see it, just like if you, in a dark room, and someone says that there is an object on the floor, and they give you a tiny little flashlight, and you look at the flashlight, and you can see it with the tiny little flashlight. The whole room is dark, but still, that tiny little flashlight has some illumination power, so it is some realization. But it's not sufficient to get us completely out of the bodily concept of life. It's a little start on the path. Now if we stay on the mental platform, we think, well, useless. I'm not fully self-realized, so the whole thing is useless. then we're not going to go anywhere. As I said, unless we understood we're not this body, unless we understood the laws of karma, unless we understood even these things theoretically, we'd be on the street with everyone else. It'd be very even the people who are not performing gross sinful activities, it's because they have some spiritual understanding. Usually, some learn to love thy neighbor, learn to love thy Lord, thy God, with all their heart, with all their might, with all something, spiritual knowledge. So although we may think, well, I'm just on the mental platform, but that's at least you're on the mental platform with the knowledge. So that's good. So now we have to go a little bit more. So patience is the first thing. Utsaha nishchaya dharyat. Utsaha. Enthusiasm. So unless we're enthusiastic about whatever little advancement we're making, our enthusiasm can't grow. If Krishna has to come personally and reveal himself to us before we become enthusiastic, then we'll always be depressed. Because we have some time to go. So we have to be, at least in our conception, of course we have no conception of time, because we're in illusory energy, our conception of time is all distorted. In any case, even a little advancement we should try to be enthusiastic about. That will help us develop more patience. And patience means, with patience we can hear. If we're always disturbed by the lack of my spiritual progress, then the result is I won't be patient. And if I'm not patient, I can't hear. And if I can't hear, I won't make any spiritual progress. So disturbance about my lack of spiritual progress is a big impediment for making any spiritual progress. It's like a little child, he's learning to walk, and the parents are so impatient, every time he takes one step and falls down, although he may be 1 year old, they start criticizing, you rascal, it took me 2 steps, why are you so slow, get with it. The child will develop, he'll have mental illness when he grows up. So the parents have to be a little patient. If you plant mushrooms, in 6 days you'll have mushrooms. And if you plant an oak tree, it'll take 60 years. So what do you want, mushrooms or an oak tree? So to become Krishna, if Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there's an ocean of bliss, of love, eternally with him. And we say it's been 5 days already and he hasn't come to me, then there must be something wrong with this process. What are we looking for? Do we want Krishna as he really is, or do we want something artificial? So, a little patience, any progress, any understanding, hearing, any conviction, then we should become enthusiastic about it. And that will help our progress. Feels of gratitude. Else, it's like someone comes along, you're hungry, and someone gives you an apple. That's all you can give me is an apple? All right, I'll take the apple back. You don't want an apple. So Krishna is giving us an opportunity, the association of devotees in so many ways, to help us make progress. And we make a little progress. We say, that's all you can give me? I deserve so much more. As if Krishna doesn't know how much we deserve. He's holding back unfairly. He's stingy in his realization. He's giving us exactly what we need and deserve. And we should be grateful for it. And that gratefulness will inspire Krishna to give us more. Anything else? Yes.
How should we let ourselves be found by a spiritual master?
Found by the spiritual master. Well, Krishna is in your heart. He's the original spiritual master. He's already found you. As far as other spiritual, well, first of all, we have to understand what spiritual master is. Otherwise, when we find one, we won't know that we found one. So unless we know what a spiritual master is and what the different kinds of spiritual masters are, even we won't know what a spiritual master is even if we find one. And spiritual master is not such a cheap thing, to be the master of the spiritual energy. So, but there may be different kinds of spiritual masters. And therefore, and if we think, well, there's one kind of spiritual master, he's absorbed in, he knows Krishna personally. Krishna comes and brings prasadam to him every day. Like Vilamangal Thakur, Krishna used to bring milk to him every day. So then we don't understand what spiritual master means. In one sense, it may mean the master of the spiritual energy, and the other one may mean my spiritual master, someone who's my master because they're more spiritual than I am. So, and that's just like we come to the movement, we call each other Prabhu. But if we take it as some kind of, just another Sanskrit word, like we take everything superficially, we think everyone's my Prabhu, but actually the real case is I'm everyone's Prabhu. But actually we have to take the devotees as our masters, learn to take them, because they're giving us instructions and examples coming in disciple succession. They're manifestations of the internal energy of Krishna. But there may be different degrees, and therefore we have to learn the different levels of spiritual advancement and how to relate to them. So it's not that we don't have spiritual masters, it's just that we haven't accepted our spiritual masters that Krishna has already presented to us. We're waiting for the real spiritual master to come, as if Krishna sent so many bogus spiritual masters to us. And then, when we find someone we can actually surrender to, we may accept them as our initiating guru, but that initiating guru is supposed to train us so we can actually understand, appreciate, and deepen our relation with all our other spiritual masters. Not that I'm your spiritual master, surrender to me, and everyone else just forget about them, they're useless. No, the spiritual master, his service, if he's actually advanced, then he trains us how to serve all the other spiritual masters we have, and all the other devotees, and all living entities eventually. How to develop if we're actually in connection with our disciple succession through our spiritual masters, then we'll know how to appropriately serve every living entity. Anything else? Thank you very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.